The Chiefs did win the Super Bowl, and like most of you, we watched the end of it, and there was a penalty called on the Eagles defense. A 5-yard penalty for defensive holding, which gave the Kansas City Chiefs an automatic first down and the ability to basically run out the clock while kicking their game-winning field goal to get the win. The problem is this call is very controversial. Now, I get it. I know what you're thinking. You got a bunch of Broncos shit behind you. You're gonna crap on the Chiefs because they won. That's not what I want to do. That's not what I want to do. I want to break down this play because I think it's interesting based on the discourse that it sparks on social media. And I think a couple things can be true here. I think this can be a bad call in this situation. A really like a dog shit level terrible call in this situation. And I'll explain why I think that. And I can also think that the Chiefs would have still won the Super Bowl without this call. They outplayed Philly in the second half of this game. Completely outplayed them in the second half. If Philly gets the ball back with a minute 45 left in this game, I'm not even certain that they can get into field goal range to tie it up. It just didn't feel like that's the way it was going to go, okay? Maybe. We don't know, and that's the problem. What football fans want, unbiased fans who aren't overly pulling for the Chiefs or overly pulling for the Eagles, I think what people wanted to see, because this was a great game. It was a really, really good Super Bowl. And now this play is going to be talked about for fucking ever. And I don't care if James Bradbury said that he agreed with the call, that he tugged Juju Smith-Schuster's jersey. That's irrelevant to me. But what it robbed us of was the Eagles getting a legitimate shot after that series with the time they would have had on the clock because of the stop to try and answer. And I think when you're watching games like this, you don't want to see the official throw a flag for a very, and when I say ticky-tacky, I mean it's the kind of penalty that probably is not penalized all the time. Hopefully somebody goes out. If the NFL's smart, what they will do is they will come out and they will show an example of this exact play at the line of scrimmage being called like a dozen times and say, look, we consistently call this exact thing a penalty and it will shut people up, okay? But what this feels like, what this looked like to people was a receiver and a corner at the line of scrimmage where you're allowed to make contact, where a little bit of contact happened, a slight tug of a jersey, possibly here. Sure, you want to say that this is a hold, fine. You've got a legitimate case to say it's a hold because James Bradbury grabs him a little bit. But I guarantee you there are hundreds of examples of this kind of contact happening at the line of scrimmage where you're allowed to make that contact, even if there's a little bit of a hold in there where this doesn't get penalized. Bottom line, the truth that he barely touches him. He barely touches him here. If you think this is not barely touching him, then I just don't understand you on any level. Okay, as a fan, if you think this is more than barely touching. Also, this throw from Patrick Mahomes, is it even a catchable ball? Is anybody even pointing out that the throw's not anywhere close to Juju Smith-Schuster? And he got open here. Juju Smith-Schuster was open, and Mahomes couldn't hit him. So, I mean, that's why Eagles fans are losing their shit, okay? But this is barely touching. Barely. I also think there's this thing that happens in fandom where you have to go against the grain, right? If it is a bad call, but it's a bad call in favor of your team, you've got to go against it. And that's why shit gets really weird and ugly on Twitter. You can be a good Chiefs fan and say this was a bad call. We still would have won. It was a bad call. You can be a good Eagles fan and say it was a bad call. We still probably would have lost. We made too many mistakes. But that's really hard for people to do. So if you're trying to say that this is a bad call, people are just like, no, fuck you. You don't like the Chiefs. You don't want them to win. You're an idiot. This is a call 100% of the time. I don't know why there's this thing where like you can't admit something's bad because you think it like takes away from you. It's a sport. We get it. Bad calls happen. But that's the fandom of it. And that's what makes these things wild. And in games like this, you just don't want to see it at this moment. This happened in the first quarter. Who gives a shit? The reason this penalty should be in place is for egregious measures of this. When a good, solid hold comes, when it really disrupts the play. And I don't think that happened here. And I don't think in the Super Bowl with less than 2 minutes, you should be calling the flag on this play. So again, because I know Chiefs fans will be upset, I think the Chiefs still win the Super Bowl, even if this is not called. They outplayed Philly in the second half. There's a bunch of plays you could point to. Everybody's going to go back to the play in the first half with Jalen Hurts fumbling the ball, the Chiefs scooping and scoring. Probably the one most costly play for Philadelphia, but they couldn't stop the Chiefs' offense in the second half. And they were able to do that in the first half. I think what was a tragedy here was just not giving a good Eagles team, a fun Philly offense, a legitimate chance with, an improbable chance with less than 2 minutes in the game, because it was good and it was pretty fairly officiated up to that point. That's what also makes this stand out. What fans had taken away from them was the possibility of a really cool ending, of an all-time ending. If the Eagles drove down, scored a touchdown to win the game, right now everybody would be saying, greatest Super Bowl ever. This is the best Super Bowl of all time, right? Like, that's what people wanted to see, is just that opportunity for Philly. They didn't get that opportunity. And if it were flipped, Chiefs fans, if it were reversed, if Mahomes got the ball back with, a minute 45, you're confident he's making that drive. You're confident he's going to get that game winner and solidify himself like as a fucking legend forever, right? Jalen Hurts didn't get that opportunity. And I think that's what bothers people. Doesn't mean this was the only reason the Chiefs won. It's just a play. That was not fun. Maybe you're the type of fan who says, I want to see every fucking penalty called at every chance the ref can do it. But it's a physical game. And when you're bumping guys at the line of scrimmage and they're trying to change direction on you, some contact's going to happen. And I think as long as you're not pulling the guy to the ground or pulling, like really holding him, getting up under his shoulder pads, pulling him out of the play, that this thing shouldn't be called. But it made for a fun evening on Twitter because it was called, and it was a crazy, fun, entertaining Super Bowl. But this is the thing everybody's going to be talking about. But if it's any consolation prize, Eagles fans, check out your very specific coffee blend, the Loser's Blend, benchwarmerbrew.com. It'll taste bitter, just like your loss. Good job, Chiefs, I guess. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube.